This is so great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and officially start. And I want to start by saying thank you so much. We have just so many wonderful people here on the call, and I'm so grateful. Some of you got on here early because I had told you this is the first time I'm doing a video call, and it's a little scary. But it's so great to be with all of you because this is a group that I feel so safe with. And I wanted to set up this call as a place where people could come and it would feel safe and warm. We could come as we are. There's no pretenses. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have any sort of anything. We could just show up. And so I feel really happy to be able to do that myself. And it was funny because I realized like this morning that I have all these like notes, right? And then I was like, oh, it's a video call. You know, I can't have my notes. And then the next thought was, you know, this is about self-love. This is about self-care. This is a call about that. And so I can take care of myself, you know, and I thought there's no reason that I can't have some notes to use. And that's the whole philosophy that I want to bring to all of this, you know, and actually for me to my whole life, right? That idea of always asking the question, how can I take care of myself? How can I, you know, how can I make this easier? How can I bring in more joy to whatever this process is? So I just wanted to start with that. So you knew I'm going to be looking at my paper a little bit. But I'd like to just quickly go around and just have, we've got some special guests who are going to be helping us with the love lists. And I'm just going to have you just give a little hand raise when I say your name so that we all know who's who. So Patty. Yeah, there's Patty. And Laura. Rachel, there's Rachel. Angie, I know you're on the phone, but we'll just pretend like you're giving us a little wave. I know you're there. Allison, there you are. And Kate, there you go. It's great to see you guys. So again, welcome all of you. And I just want to start by saying that the reason I wanted to do this call today is that I love holidays. And I also feel like holidays can be a time when a lot of people get left out. A lot of people can feel excluded for various reasons. And I think, you know, I certainly know in my own life, there have been plenty of holidays that have been difficult in some way, or that I've felt lonely and left out of all of the celebration. And it seemed to me that it would be really important to just have a space where anybody could come who might just feel like they needed that extra boost of love or that bit of connection. And I think Valentine's Day particularly irks me because there's such this focus on romantic love. And I think that's changing, you know, or at least I hope it is. I hope that there's a movement to bring it in more into just love in general, and a time for us just to one more time that we can reach out to people that we know and love. So I really wanted to do it today for that reason. And most of you know, I think most of the people on this call, or most of the people who know me from my Simply Celebrate work, know that my whole world grew out of depression and anxiety. So my Simply Celebrate business actually came from a place of, I was just depressed and full of anxiety and really wanting off this planet about 25 years ago. And I was lucky enough that I was led to a meditation class. And in that meditation class, it was like I walked in that class and it felt like everything, like this iron wall closing in on me, like the depression and despair was so heavy. And I remember that it's like, many of you probably know this when you're meditating, right? There's this focus on the in-breath and the out-breath. And on one of the in-breaths, there was this sense of no pain. And it was like the first time that I had experienced that. I had thought it was like this huge, you know, closing in solid thing. And in that moment of no pain, it was like this pinprick of light. And for me, that pinprick of light has been what has guided me and led me all these years, because in that pinprick of light, I saw that I could look for those. You know, I could look for those, you know, like the next day when I was holding my cat, there was like a moment of, well-being. And one time I remember like the sun was sort of coming in and I had another one of those, like it was a literal pinprick of light. And I started seeking them out. I started looking all over for them. And it became really what saved me. And from that place, I realized that there are a lot of other people who are in the dark, and other people need pinpricks of light in their lives. And little by little, it sort of become like a real practice for me of seeking and creating these pinpricks of light. And especially with the focus again of when there's darkness, when things are really hard, when there's loss, when there's difficulty. And a lot of you also know this, that one of the sort of like cornerstones for me has been what I call the love list, which is simply a list of reasons why I love someone. And I did the first one for my mom like many years ago, and I've created hundreds of them since. And what I know about doing a love list is that it's impossible to be sad when I'm focused on why I love someone. That it's just, I get filled with that love of who they are and the relationship. And so one year I was doing a group like this, but an audio call, and we were all doing love lists. And Jill Salahab, who's a friend of mine, she raised her hand and said, I'm making a love list for myself. And it was so wonderful. Like she started talking about and sharing about how she needed to do that first before she made one for anyone else, because she didn't feel like she had it to give to other people until she had it for herself. And I know exactly what she's talking about. I feel like that's one of the most important things. And I am guessing a lot of people on the call probably know that too, that it's like we need to sort of fill up that well of love, and it really starts at home. And so I sent out today a link to all of you. You might have seen it, that there's, Jill actually did an 8-minute call with me talking about a Love List Selfie, and it's a really beautiful conversation if you haven't heard it. But basically, I wanted to read you one of the things that she said that I thought was so important, which is, she said, this has been a 4-year process for me, learning to love myself. And the practice is really paying off. I think if the idea of making a love list for yourself is off-putting or uncomfortable, it's probably the most important time for you to do it. And I love that she said that, because I think it can be a hard thing, the practice of self-love. And here we are, we're on Valentine's Day, and I think the word love gets thrown around so much. But it's like to really get present with ourselves, and to just come from that place of like, even if it's uncomfortable, I'm going to try it. And I've invited you guys some really special guests here who all in their own way are specialists in love. And some people who are specialists in love during different times of loss. And so we're going to be walking you through creating a love list for yourself. And, we may get, 5, 6, 7 things on your list, but I just hope that everybody's willing to just sort of play along with it. So I'm going to take a moment to pause now just to see if anybody has any questions, or Rachel, if you're seeing anything in the chat room you want to share. I'll look and see if anybody has their hands raised.
I can share. So Pat Sullivan had a really beautiful comment about how she's happy to be here. And she says, the difficulty with this holiday for me is that my husband and I are dealing with his recent cancer diagnosis. While he and I have never had more love and joy together, I find I need a lot more self-love now. So I told her she's in the perfect place.
Pat, thank you so much, Pat, for sharing that. Yeah. And wow, isn't that true too? That it's like, especially those times, I think sometimes when we're giving and giving and giving, that can be one of the times. And I know, Patty, you may talk about this when we have your spot, because it's like, you deal with people who are grieving and caretakers, and yeah, so thanks, Pat. Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands, so maybe we'll just move on here. Oh, I know, one of the other things that I really wanted to underscore again, and I said it when we first got on the call, but it's that idea about doing things right, or being perfect, or showing up a certain way. And I really wanted to say again that, whatever you're writing tonight, that just let it be whatever it is. You know, like I really want this to be a time when there's no standards, there's no expectations, that we're just letting anything come through us and hoping to like maybe just, you know, feel anything that might come in that has some compassion and love for ourselves. So without further ado, let's just everybody have their paper and pen, and we're going to start. Laura, I didn't tell you were going first, but I hope you're okay. So Laura Heacock is a life and leadership coach who is on a mission to eliminate burnout using kindness and self-kindness. And it just so happens that Laura has just published a book, and I happen to see her promoting her book. And actually, I have it right here. So it's called Practical Kindness, which I love, right? Because it's a practice. And so Laura's going to share a very short excerpt from her book, and then we'll go on to our first prompt.
Awesome. Can you hear me? Am I all good?
You're
awesome.
Good.
So I too am going to be looking down because I'm reading. I wrote it, but I don't have it memorized. But this chapter is coincidentally called A Different Kind of Valentine's Love. When Valentine's Day comes around, you might get just as sick of the jewelry, chocolate, and greeting card commercials as I do. I love love, and I'm all for celebrating love, but we're going to do that a little differently today. No trip up the greeting card aisle, no gift to buy. Today, I want you to celebrate the ways you love yourself. Not sure where to start? Let's start by celebrating your uniqueness. You are the only you who will ever walk the planet, forever and ever. Yet most of us go around wishing we were more like everyone else, especially when you're bombarded for ads for products that tell you that there's something wrong with you. So just for today, I invite you to notice your uniqueness and celebrate it. Whenever you start to hear the voice of comparison, which is one of the most common ways we fall out of love with ourselves, remind yourself of one way that your uniqueness makes you awesome. Try this simple celebration of self-love today. Notice comparison, identify one way that you're unique, and tell yourself why that uniqueness makes you awesome. Repeat as needed. So, are you prompting me, Sherry?
I'm prompting you right now to go with it. Yes, I know you've got a prompt all set for us.
Sweet. So I will say for your first love list prompt, what is something different or unique about you that could use some love? So thinking about that question, we talked about it when I just read that little chapter, something that's unique about you that really needs a little bit of love right now. So for me, my answer would be, and for those of you on video, my crooked smile. So I notice a lot of times in pictures, one side is kind of up and the other one's kind of down. I used to think of it as gummy. Like I used to think when I smiled too big, it was really gummy and I didn't like the way it looked, and I had braces as a kid. But now I've really gotten to the point where when I see those pictures and I'm like all gums and it's kind of crooked and maybe I notice some of the imperfections, it means that I'm showing genuine joy. When my smile is big and gummy and crooked, it means that I'm not criticizing, I'm not comparing, I'm just truly in a moment of joy. So that crooked, unique smile is something about me that I really learned to love.
Oh, Laura, that is so beautiful. I love that. And you have a beautiful smile. I mean, that's the funny thing too, right? Like, I think we all, like, it's interesting too, just to throw that piece in, you know, how we perceive ourselves. But so I hope everybody, as I'm going to talk for just another half a minute, so I give you all a chance to write down what it is about yourself. Like Laura said, that something different that could use a little bit of added love. And I know when Laura and I were talking about this, for me, the first thing that came up for me was that, you know, I tend to lean toward the dark side. And for many years, I saw that as something wrong with me. You know, I beat myself up for it. It was a really bad, quote unquote, thing. And it's something that over the last like 10 or 15 years, I've come to really love, because it opens my heart. You know, it reminds me, I mean, now it's funny, I'm getting kind of just choked up talking about it, but it's like that, it makes me feel real. It makes me know that I'm connected to all of humanity. And yes, I can have the really high highs and I can have the low lows. And it's a way also that led me into my lifelong celebration practice. And I will be forever grateful for that. So, so I'm hoping that everybody's finding something that they can put on their list. And I'm just looking to see, and maybe Rachel will help me and see if anybody's in the chat box, but if anybody wanted to ask a question or say anything, or if you're having trouble at all anytime with any of the prompts that we give, I hope you'll just go ahead and raise your hand. Or I guess that's, you know, clicking on the participant if you're on video, and *9 if you're on the phone. Okay, we're going to move on. And Patty, where are you? There you are, Patty.
Yeah, hi.
Patty Burgess shares how the counterintuitive dive and exploration into one's own grief and loss can shorten the distance from suffering to joy. And so, Patty, hello, hello. I know.
Hi, how are you?
When I asked you what you loved about yourself, you gave the surprising answer, your sense of humor.
Yes.
And
yes.
I thought it'd be interesting to talk for a couple minutes about that, because you are immersed in the world of death and dying and hospice and grief.
Yeah, I'm one funny girl in the midst of that, I will tell you. It's you know, it's a crazy thing, but it is my happy place when I'm sitting bedside with folks who are dying. And you know, people are usually like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Like, that's the last place where people want to go. But to me, it is that place. It's almost like, it's like the permission to be authentic. It's the place where we can be real, because folks at the end of their lives, they pretty much pulled off all the masks. There's just no more bowl left at the end of life. And so it would almost be incongruous to be anything but me and who I am in that moment. And sometimes that's goofy. I've had probably some of the most hilarious conversations with people who are dying, which again you wouldn't expect. And it was them that taught me, wow, like I can be myself. And if I can be myself and find myself there right at the doorway to death, you know, even to the point where I've actually said, you know, when you get over there, tell them I'm doing really good, and I get credits, you know, like, and then they're like, yeah, I'll be talking, I'll be telling. It can be so joyous in the midst of such pain. And Sherry, I want to be clear here and basically say, you know, in no way am I saying that in the midst of grief that someone's supposed to, you know, dig in and find that hilarity, because, you know, frankly, most of us operate in a pretty narrow bandwidth all day long. And when grief strikes, I think that the universe in all her wisdom makes that bandwidth even smaller so that we can stay there. And most of us are like, really want to run the other way.
Wow.
And so to me, there's a lot of wisdom that, you know, our body will tell us, and ways in which we can dive in, because when grief strikes, our body's going to take us there. But it's that pulling away from that place prematurely, I think, that can really get us into trouble. It's almost like, you know, we know that PTSD is ways that it's our body not being able to process the trauma. But when we cut off our grief because we want to run away from it, it almost is giving us like these little mini PTSDs as our losses mount in life. And so to me, when I say that the way to shorten suffering to joy is to dive in, that gives you the access to all of that bandwidth, which includes joy, and gives you much more opportunity to get there a lot more quickly. And I could speak for hours about that, but I just think we've got so much wisdom, and if we listen and we stay there just a little bit longer, and there's tips to do that, and you know, that joy will find us. It isn't as hard as we think.
Wow. You know what dropped in for me, Patty, when you were saying that, is that I feel like in my own life that my depth of depression and grief and sadness and loneliness has allowed for a greater breadth of joy. And that it's
Yes.
sort of an uncanny thing how that has worked, but that it's like, you know, it feels like it's opened up all this space, and sometimes it's joy and sometimes it's sadness, but it's like, but there's just kind of like what you're saying, there's room.
Yeah. It's like, if we allow it, we're all on this hero's journey. And that, I think, was your hero's journey. One you wouldn't have chosen, but it chooses you. And you went, maybe because you didn't have much choice. But when you found those pinpricks of light, it gave you another perspective. And what do we all do on a hero's journey? We go out there sometimes unwillingly. We get our faces bloodied, and we go to the depths, and then what do? We come back and share it in community like we're doing tonight. And thank you for your journey, because maybe none of us would be here. And what a glorious evening. Thank you.
I know. I keep looking around. I keep being like, oh, look at all these faces.
I know. So good. It's juicy.
It is juicy. And Patty, so I know that you have a prompt for people related to this. Do you?
I'm sorry, say that again. Say that again. You looked at.
Oh, a prompt for people's love list about.
Oh, yeah. Can you think of a time when you were in the midst of grief or sorrow or the depths of it, and somehow there was a moment of joy? And if it's hard to find that now, I want to refer you to something that you can take a look at, YouTube video. If you have ever watched years ago Steel Magnolias with Sally Field, Dolly Parton, go take a look on YouTube and just enter the last scene, funeral scene for Steel Magnolias, because it is one of the best. Well, it's Sally Field, I think, at her best. And we can't even imagine sometimes a loss greater than the loss of a child if we have children, and yet that's what she's experiencing. And so she is in the depths of it. Something happens, and the next thing you know, like complete raucous laughter from the wellspring of that grief. So take a look, because it's really depicts what I'm saying, that and it doesn't have to be that grandiose, but there are places that we can find in the joy. Have I got stories for you from the bedside, for sure.
Wow. Thank you, Patty. Yeah. So once again, I'm going to give you all a moment to, to reflect upon this and think about, is there, and the way that I phrased it, because I was practicing after I talked to Patty about this, was I phrased it as, I love that I wore my grandma's crocheted black dress that she made me to her funeral. And it was she had made it for me when I was in high school, and I like squeezed into this crocheted dress, and it brought this moment. Everybody knew she had made it, and it brought this moment of levity to something that was a really sad event. But that's the way I phrased it. So like, I love this about myself. I love that I did this. I love that I love that I could, however that works for each of you.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Patty. I think the hardest thing about this call right now is that I could talk to each of you, for an hour or two, just each of you, and we're having to move so quickly. But this is probably a good time for me to say to everybody that tomorrow I'm going to be sending out a resource list with the names of all of the special guests that were on tonight and how to contact them, and they have some special gifts for you to share. And so you'll get that coming to you, so you'll know that that's coming tomorrow.
Sherry, I just wanted to send a quick note to Pat Sullivan, who shared with us that she's going through a rough time. And I want to share that the fact that she's on this call and even said that I need more self-love, like, you got it going on, girl, because not many people who are caregivers really get that before. When they're spent is when they're reaching out. So bless you.
Yeah. I'm so happy you're here, Pat. Yeah. Thanks for saying that, Patty. It's so true.
Sure.
Oh, Pat, you want to say, let me see. I think you're unmuted. I can't hear you. I'm so sad, Pat. I can't hear you. I don't know why. Do you have the audio muted on your computer? Do you see down at the bottom where it says I don't even know where it is now. I'm looking for it. Or actually, it would probably be on your picture.
Oh,
I'm so sorry, honey.
it's going out into the ethers. I'm getting it telepathically.
You know what, Pat? If you want to type something in the chat, and then maybe Rachel can read it for us so that we get a chance to hear you. I'm so sorry we can't hear your voice. Yeah. Oh.
Oh.
I am new.
Ah, you're there.
Yay! I want to say, first of all, oops, forget it.
What?
Oh, she's hearing herself. She's hearing herself, I think.
Oh, I thought she changed her mind. Pat. Okay, Pat, if you want to type into the chat, Rachel will let us know. It's so great that we got a few words.
It looks like she's on the computer and the phone at the same time. So it could be that she should be on one or the other.
Aha. Thanks, Ellen. Hi, honey. Pat?
Yes.
Oh,
Hi,
there
honey.
she is.
Oh, good. That did it. I want to say, first of all, Patty, I wish you had been there 62 years ago when my mother was dying and I was just 13. And it was a time when we were not allowed to say, oh, Mama, you're dying. I'm scared. Things are falling apart. We weren't allowed to say anything. And thank God I found therapy about 15 years later, and it changed my life. And all the things you've been saying about go right into the heart of it, it works. It absolutely works. And since we got this diagnosis, we've been doing a gratitude practice every night.
Oh.
John took on the reality that this has metastasized, and he could have anywhere from 4 to more years. And he took it on as I'm going to fight for myself. And every day we've been doing that gratitude practice, and every day it's been all the things you've said, Sherry, about simply celebrate have come right down into the heart of what we do. And I find if I don't celebrate the small stuff, I don't feel nourished. And when I do, I feel deeply nourished, and can nourish him and vice versa. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, Pat, that was beautifully said. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. And will you give John a hug?
I will.
Yeah. Thank you.
From all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll have to give him a bunch of hugs.
Yeah.
Oh. So, Rachel, you'll have to put down your wonderful duties. Thank you so much again for helping with the chat room.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
So let me give you a little introduction. Rachel Archelaus helps people live a life doing only what they love through practicing self-love in every moment. And Rachel and I have a wonderful connection around love. She's been a wonderful, just this inspiration to me. We've had some times where we've gotten on the phone and just started talking about, that one call we talked about, why do we limit love? And I think you and I could talk about that for days on end. Why is it there's so much love to give? And so I'd like to just have you speak a few minutes about anything that's up for you right now, because you always have something interesting to say.
Yeah, well, in thinking about all of this and doing my love list earlier, I was realizing that I really only do what I love, and it comes to me in really practical ways. Like this, I was just in Connecticut and I was having to fly home unexpectedly to Phoenix, and I realized that I'd need to take a shuttle to the airport. And I looked at the prices and they were like $150, $200, and I really just felt so wrong to spend that much money on just a shuttle to the airport. And I don't like spending my money if I don't love what I'm buying. And so I concocted this plan to spend that money on a hotel in New York City instead and just fly out of New York. And it turned into this amazing weekend with my sister. She came along. We went to dinner at this amazing vegetarian restaurant. We had such a blast. And I got amazing experiences and food that I wouldn't have had otherwise, all because I listened to myself and spent money on what I loved instead of what I didn't really want to. So it's so transformative in the self-love kind of way and in the money kind of way.
I love the way you brought those both in. And what a beautiful illustration, and I think, when I asked you, because I asked everybody who was coming on the call, all of the special guests, what they loved about themselves, because I just thought it would be helpful for me to get a little sense. And you answered, that you love that you listen to your heart. And this story is such a perfect example of that, And so I don't know, is there anything else that you wanted to say around listening to your heart?
Yeah, it can seem really frivolous. When you start doing it, it can seem, trivial, or like, what does it matter? Or my obligations or expectations of me are more important than this. But even when it comes to spending your money or changing the time you go to yoga or whatever it is, listening to that little voice inside of you to find a more resonant fit for something is really important, and is definitely a practice of self-love that transforms all of you and not just that little event. So it starts really small, and it's about building trust in yourself to make bigger changes from there. And it builds on itself like a little snowman.
I love that. And what dropped in when you were saying that is something that happened for me that I kind of alluded to a little bit, but it's like, so earlier today, I had this huge place of fear just drop in. Like, I've never done a video call. I have all these people coming. What if it doesn't go right? What if I screw things up? Blah, blah, blah. And because, thank goodness that I think that I'm surrounded by people like you and wonderful teachers, like almost immediately it dropped in self-love, right? Like, and so I was like, I just started focusing on, okay, what candle can I burn? What hat can I wear? The sorts of things that for me, they bring me sort of comfort and make me feel like myself and like, safe. And I think you're right, Rachel, though. It can seem like a small thing, but just that one moment of turning our attention to, gosh, honey, what do you need? And saying that to ourselves can open up all kinds of doors. And then the next moment is different. And then the next moment.
Yeah, and it can go from what do you need, which sounds like more accessible to us in the beginning, to then what do we want? And how would we feel most excited? It's like we can build on how far we're willing to go for ourselves,
Thank you for that's such a beautiful point to make, right? Like starting, we start where we can, and then as we practice, right, it can become, and I think oftentimes, and I just want to say this, is oftentimes I think people can get into that place of like, oh, what happens if I just become so selfish or so greedy, or, everything's focused on me. And I think that that's just ego or the monkey mind that wants to take us there, because my experience is the more love and care and giving myself what I want, the more energy I have for other people. I mean, it's hands down.
Yeah, I find the same. Like I just had this great experience, but I brought my sister and we had a great bonding weekend, and my parents love to see that too. And so yeah, it's definitely, the more you give to yourself, the more you have to give to other people.
Yeah. So do you have a prompt for us?
I do. So we can use the prompt, I love that I listen to my heart. And then you can explain your own story of what happened when you listen to your heart. I love that I listened to my heart and this happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that I listened to my heart. For me, the first thing that came up when Rachel and I were talking about that was the memory of when I graduated from college. And it was one of those colleges where everybody was interviewing with these corporations and going on to these amazing jobs. And I just felt sick. I wasn't destined for that corporate life. And I listened to my heart and I moved to New York City. And I am so grateful. And so I love that about that young girl, you know, that she was willing to listen to her heart despite all of the, like, you know, pressure from everywhere. So if anybody, I just want to say it again, you're always welcome if anyone wants to share something, if a thought has come up or dropped in, or you just want to ask a question, or you're having trouble thinking of something, you know, you're welcome to raise your hand. Angie, are you still there with us on the phone?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can
Hi.
hear you. I know you have to hop off, so I'm going to introduce you and have you go next.
Okay.
Yay. So Angie DeMuro draws and writes things to make herself and others happy, so that we all remember to love ourselves, and then we could share that love and happiness with everyone we meet. Angie, for those of you who may not have been on the call when we started talking about this, Angie is the one who drew, first of all, that amazing logo that I used for this class. And also, if you downloaded the Love List template, and if you're using that, the one with the beautiful girl with the crown, that's all Angie. So thank you so much, Angie, first of all, for that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And you know, it's so perfect that I actually moved the order around just now because I looked at the clock and realized you had to go. But it's so funny because it perfectly follows what Rachel was just saying, right? That.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that, your artwork, and how that is your way of sharing love?
Right. Well, when I was listening to what Rachel was sharing, you know, it's right on the money, and trusting your instincts and giving yourself self-love, and trusting that inner navigation that I think that people forget to do. I think that they're so tuned into really the internet, social media, everything. And we forget to just unplug from all that. And not just that, but, you know, with that comes the opinions and the comparison and all of those things. And, you know, all of that bundled up together of what's been discussed so far tonight. And so when we turn all of that inward and we give ourselves love, then we can take that, we start to really shine our light. And how can we shine that brilliance and ourselves? Because really, I don't want to say an obligation, but you know, we're here to really connect and to share. And if you don't share that beauty of yourself, that brilliance, that light, that upness, if that's even a word, with other people, you know, that's a disservice. Think about that to the world, to not do that, to not, even if it's, you know, as small as a smile and as big as, I don't know, something really big. I can't think. but I know, and I apologize for my voice because I have like a little cold thing happening. And as I'm listening to myself, I sound like this very raspy pack-a-day smoker or something. But and I don't smoke. But yeah, so I'm like, I don't know, I have this sinus thing, cold thing happening. But anyway, so just that, you know, so sharing with other people. So for me, you know, it's come out in my books and in my artwork, because that's a part of me that I can convey myself into, to share and give. It's a tangible part of me to share with other people.
Yes. Oh, Angie, that's so beautiful. And I know.
Did that make any sense? I feel like I just rambled. Did that?
It made sense to me. I don't know. We'll see. But you know what dropped in for me when you said, you know, from the smallest thing of sharing a smile to something really, really big, you know what immediately dropped in was that you made a drawing for me, a year and a half ago. And that, you know, to me, that was really, really big, right? To receive something from this like amazing artist, that was a celebration of me. And I think that to me perfectly illustrates the prompt that you're just about to share with us.
Right.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and you want to share your prompt?
Yeah. So I think, okay, so on your list or, whatever you're working from, and even if it doesn't come up like right away tonight, just sort of ponder it and think about it. What is something you can do? And you know what? This is a cool idea. So do this, even if you set the intention for tomorrow. Think of a way that you can share your light with the world. Even it holding the door for somebody or smiling or crafting something and giving it to somebody. And by giving outward, make sure you're supporting inward. On the same token, do something really nice to share your brilliance inward. If it's eat a chocolate, get a manicure, or just take a nap. It doesn't even have to cost any money. Flip through a magazine, have a cup of tea, do something you wouldn't maybe normally fit into your day, and do that. So share something of your brilliance outward and inward, because we have to do that for ourselves. If we loved ourselves as much as, for our mom, that you love your children, or that you love your pet, or that you love your spouse or your parents. If we did that, imagine if you treated yourself with that loving kindness that you give outward so freely all the time. That would be really amazing. So, because you have to fill yourself up so that you could shine your light, right? So think of something, put on your list, and try to execute that tomorrow. Try to actually implement it just into your daily life. And you're going to see how amazing you feel.
Angie, that's so great. Because actually what you've just done unknowingly or maybe knowingly is give us 2 prompts. So it might be, the first might be,
sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's amazing. We love it. So everybody, I think the first one, and I love how Angie said you challenge yourself to do this tomorrow, but even right now, maybe just think, I love that and think of a way that you expressed your love to somebody today. I love that I thought enough to send a text to my mom. I love that I, helped that person with their groceries. And then you could also, I love that and something you gave yourself, some expression of love for yourself. For me, I love that I let myself off the hook and just brought my cheat sheet tonight. I love that. And I've got a couple while you guys are all writing and thinking. I see Ellen and Patty. Ellen, I'm going to call on you first.
I need to go soon, but I wanted to say that I really loved that, because that is like the beauty of this holiday. I mean, even though it's a Hallmark holiday, and even though there's lots of things wrong with that, saying Happy Valentine's Day to people in like a really kind way, just like sharing love and saying for a few seconds, I really see you, I think brightens people up. And it's sad we need a holiday to do that, but there's something really lovely, I think, about this day for that reason.
You know what, Ellen? Thank you. That's so beautiful. And it's so true. I mean, maybe there are a lot of things about Valentine's Day that don't work, but that piece really works, that it reminds us all. I mean, I must have sent out, a bunch of texts today to my family and friends, and it's nice to be reminded. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. I need to go, but I really loved this call, and thank you, Sherry, for putting it together.
Thanks for being here. It's good to see your face. I love seeing your face.
Thank you. And yours too.
Patty, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, it just occurred to me when Rachel and Angie were speaking that, we are so used to screaming louder for other people than we scream for ourselves. It's so up and big in my work with caregivers, and especially with caregivers, that you just can't. There's a point where you physically and emotionally are spent, and then you're no good for anyone else. It's that whole oxygen mask sort of analogy, and I think it's one of those things that it takes, maybe especially for women, I don't want to leave men out of this, but it takes practice. Like, it's not like we get it intellectually, but these practices and the things that you guys, Rachel, have shared just feel so real. It's the little things. We need to start screaming for ourselves, but in a gentle way.
Or an exuberant way if we feel
That's true.
You know?
But not in a desperate, like, dear God, I need help type of way. Like, more in like, I'm going to take care of me and then type of thing.
Exactly.
So it struck me that we give from the depletion and versus the overflow.
Yes. And you know, what I do love is when you said, like, dear God, I need help, that comes from a place of days or months or weeks or years of not stopping to take care of ourselves and not, you know, then it comes from this place. And I think it's sometimes very ungraceful. I know in my own life, you know, you're like shaking someone to like, please love me right now. I'm desperate.
Yeah.
Right. And so thank you.
You're like, whoa. Yeah.
So Angie, I just wanted to circle back because I do know you have to hop off too. And I just wanted to say how grateful I am again for, even though we didn't get to see your beautiful face and, but I've loved you. Your spirit has been with us the whole time I'm promoting the call. And that is a huge thing. I actually had someone tell me today that simply opening up the email and seeing that artwork, you know, made her feel really good. And that's no small thing.
Oh, that's so great. I love hearing that. That's really nice.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to make a suggestion too, right?
Yeah.
So all of us on this call, instead of, now this isn't mine. This is from my son, my youngest son, who's 9 right now. But when oh my gosh, I guess he was probably about 2 years old. He still calls Valentine's Day this. He calls it I Love You Day. And so we celebrate Valentine's I Love You Day. We celebrate I Love You Day here in our household, even with our children that are grown and moved away. And it's a big thing. And, you know, his older brothers called today to wish him I Love You Day. And so we've kind of just turned it that it's, you know, we call family, instead of that romantic holiday, it really is I Love You Day, which feels and sounds so much better. It's so festive, right? And we hang decorations, and we all make each other cards and hats and write nice things about each other. And we just have always done that. And so I think I'm going to propose that we should nationally change this name.
I love
it. Not be Valentine.
I love it.
I Love You Day, right? Just I Love You Day. It just sounds better, doesn't it?
It does. And I'm going to say one more thing, Angie. I just looked down. I'm going to hold it up for other people. You can't see, but I have your art printed out. The one that says Shine Your Light. And that was like another self-care thing. I completely actually didn't even realize, but I printed it out for myself to put here with me, to just remind me. Like, it just makes me happy. And I wish you could see it, but other people can see that it's like, I Love You Day. Thank you.
Yeah, I Love You Day. Oh, we should, I'll send you an email, because maybe if it could be a printout for everybody to have, if it would remind you to shine your light, that would be a great idea.
I love it.
Did it print out okay? That would be fine. Sure.
Yeah, I love it. I'll include it with the resources.
Great. And thank you for having me on this call. And thanks for everything. This was really great. And hi, everybody. I'm really sorry I didn't get to see you in person.
I love and I love what you just said, Angie. And I'm going to call on, I don't know if you want to share, but there's someone else here who also told me about an idea she did today. And I think if you don't have to hop off right away, you're going to love it, Angie. Linda, are you up for talking? I've unmuted you. Linda? I'm not hearing you if you're speaking, honey. I'm going to have to tell your story for you. I hope that's okay. Yeah, I don't know why Linda can't. Anyways, Linda Ryan, who you can see is on the call. I don't know why we can't hear her, but Linda left me a voice note today and told me that she's currently single. right? And so she's in a place where she doesn't have that like romantic partner in her life, but she was really dedicated to making today a really good day for herself and to bring some love into it. And so she made it her mission she was calling all the people that she loves, and I think that's very much in line with what Angie was just saying.
Oh, that's so amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Linda, I love that.
So instead of just, I think instead this is the place where sometimes it's like that, really bringing the celebration into our lives, which is just to say that I want to celebrate this day. I want to have Valentine's Day or I love you day. And so Linda really did do that. I mean, she really did have an I love you day by reaching out to all these people in her life to tell them how much she loved them. So I'm sorry, Linda, that we couldn't hear you, and I can't see you either, but I know you're here, and I love your spirit is here. So we better move on. I realize we're getting close to 6 o'clock, and thank you. Thank you so much to so far who shared, and thank you, Angie. I know you have to hop off, but we love you.
Yeah, because it's almost 6 there, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost 9 here. I know, and Michael, the creator of I Love You Day, has to go to bed, and Mommy has to read him a book and tuck him in because we still do that. So, but bye everybody, and thank you, and I love you all. Happy I Love You Day.
Happy
Bye.
I Love You Day.
Bye.
Bye. Allison, how are you doing, honey, there? I can't hear you. Oh, wait, let me see if you're muted.
Is that good? Can you hear me?
Nah, loud and clear.
Good.
Let me give you a little introduction so people know what you do. Allison Naish, the founder of Create Extraordinary Relationships, coaches women after divorce on how to have a stress-free relationship with their ex, even if he's the most difficult guy in the world. I love the way you say that.
I hear it so much.
Yeah. So Allison, you want to just talk for a couple minutes and let us know about like that, right? What is that place of finding love in a divorce?
Wow, it's such a great question. One of the things that has really transformed my relationship with my two exes, and it seems like the women I work with really find this, they like this too. We call it relationship habits. There's a bunch of connecting habits and there's a bunch of disconnecting habits. And I noticed for me when I stopped using the disconnecting habits that push me further apart from people and from, even someone like my ex-husband, you wouldn't think that we would care too much to be connected to our exes necessarily. But when we stop using the disconnecting ones and we start to use the connecting habits that really bring us closer together so that we're just not doing this, we can actually influence, we have more influence and we can actually get more of what we want that way. And we're just more solution focused when we're using those kind of habits.
Oh wait, Allison, we can't hear you anymore.
Sorry, there we go.
Oh, there you're back. Did we miss something?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so let me just, so you were talking about habits and the habits that disconnect. And can you give us an example, maybe of one of each, just so we can?
Sure. There's about 7 kind of big ones on each side, and there's probably tons more, but these are kind of the biggest ones. So on the disconnecting side or the destructive side, we would have criticism, blaming, defending, threatening, bribing, all those kind of, habits that we don't like to use, but we do use sometimes with everybody. And then on the connecting side, there's accepting, listening to understand, respecting, trusting, supporting, negotiating differences. So, and I say them as verbs because that's what they are, because it is a verb. It is something that we have to keep doing, So, yeah, so those are the kind of big ones. And I just find that they just completely transform communication. So that's one of the biggies. That's what one of my big, I just love them. I love telling people about them. I love using them when I remember to use them. It's a practice.
The thing is too, what I was thinking about when you were saying that, those are practices with our own communication with ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
For
Like
sure.
to be able to be like, just hearing you say those words, you know, thinking about like, when am I criticizing myself? When am I blaming versus, you know, accepting and loving? And so
Yeah.
I know, again, you know, as with everybody else, it's like we could talk for so long about all this, but I think that gives people just a wonderful taste of the deep work that you do.
Oh, cool.
And I would like, with your permission, I'm going to go ahead and just share what you told me you love about yourself.
Sure, absolutely.
So when I asked Allison what she loved about herself, she said, how I love to dance. And that was great, because just reading that made me happy, you know?
Yes. And I noticed I don't do it as much as I would like to, but I just, when I do, I'm like, why don't I do this more often? Why don't, you know, even in the car, it's like, I can even dance in the car a little bit while I call it car dancing. It's like, I can, yeah. So
you're kind of doing a little dance right now. I could.
I'm in the car so much. So I'm like, yeah, but yeah.
So how would you offer that as a prompt to people as they're writing their love list right now for themselves?
Okay. So I would say, what is something that brings you pure joy?
What a great one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, so you said, I love to dance. And for me, I thought about it and I thought, you know, I love thrifting. And so I would say, like, you know, I love that I'm a great treasure hunter, you know, and it's so much fun. So as people are pausing for a moment and just thinking about that, something that brings you pure joy. And I should have said this at the beginning and I didn't, but for goodness sakes, if more than one thing drops in, please write them all down. Sure. And I'm hoping that this is a list that everybody will keep, you know, by their on their desk or somewhere close by, so that they can add to it, you know, for the rest of your lives. So that's great. So yeah, what brings you pure joy? And I'm just going to give a quick look and see if anybody has anything they wanted to share. Any hands up? Everybody seems to be doing okay. Thank you, Allison.
You're welcome.
And Kate. Hi. I saw something that brings you pure joy hanging out by you a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I didn't really get a chance to acknowledge. I forget, what's your daughter's name?
Evelyn.
Yeah. So
they're basically everything, right? They're pure joy and they're the other side, but man, I'm going to feel it all, right?
Let me give you a little introduction so people know who you are. So Kate Galt is a breakup coach who believes that your breakup can be a window of opportunity to up-level your entire life. I love that. You know, very similar to Allison's, like using these times of our lives that are typically viewed as so negative. And it sounds like you have a way of sort of turning it around.
Yeah, it's about loss. And there's a funny thing when loss happens that you get more present really fast. I know Patty can attest to that, like all of you. And so I like the window thing because it doesn't happen all the time, right? It's just this special time where if you can use it to your advantage, then you'll be able to, in that present moment, see all of the things that you love about yourself, see all the things that you'd like to transform about yourself, all of that.
Yeah. Can you give us just a little bit more about, like, so how, how would you work with someone to find that in themselves?
Well, I believe that there's a courageous lover in all of us. And that courageous lover is the one who is completely scared shitless and also ready for the world, right? All in that paradox of one.
That is so great. Yeah. And you know, what's so beautiful about that is you're just mirroring exactly what you said at the beginning too, right? It's all of it.
Right, exactly. And I had an experience today, really visceral, that I was in my head, which I love to think, and all of a sudden I could not get into my heart, and I could feel like this tightness right here that maybe some of you have felt before, and I had to like drop into my heart, and so I felt this flood come down into the heart, and I was like, oh yeah, we got to do both. There's that, like, we have to think and we have to prepare and do the things, and also receive spiritual whatever that we need to help ourselves be the best selves we could be, and to love ourselves, and then to come down here and have that human compassion. That is really what this world needs now, especially on I Love You Day. And so to have all of that in one, it takes practice, like we've talked about, but that present moment of loss can be a great window.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What a great reminder. And I don't know if you noticed you did this, but you were up here above your head, like spirit, and then you were like here on your head, the mind, and then here on the heart. And again, like, it just feels to me like this place of listening, listening to all of it, allowing all of it, accepting all of it. And that's like, yeah, go ahead.
The connecting behaviors that Allison was talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love this. It's all like, it's so wonderfully starting to just weave together, right? These practices and the courageous lover.
The courageous lover.
Nice.
Don't settle for anything less.
I love that. And Rachel, I'm looking at you right now because it's like that really fits with so many of our discussions about it takes courage. First of all, it takes courage to love anyone, I think. You've this openness, this, vulnerability, and then the courage to love ourselves. And it's like, I love that we're having this conversation because it's reminding me of that. How much can I push, those boundaries of where it feels too scary or too much or too vulnerable. Yeah.
I love your commitment to the shadow. You're just going to push every damn time, and it's the best. It's the best. Thanks for having this call.
Oh, so do you want to share what you said? You had a wonderful response too when I asked you what you love about yourself.
Well, Laura, I also love my crooked smile. Yes, crooked smile tonight. But I'm going to pull this up. I did say that basically I love how I ridiculously overthink all things. Like, I don't let any of it. So yes, we're the thinkers. And so, like, I guess what I want to ask you all for your love list is, what have you transformed? That, like, ridiculously overthinking something could be judging, it could be negative, but for me, I have that, in order to transform something, I think we do need to have a sense of humor. We do need to see that our false self, our inner critic, our shitty committee, whoever we want to call those people inside of us that really aren't us, they're just programs from the air and the Facebook to tell us we're not enough. Right? We're not enough. So I want you to think about, for you, what have you just said, that is the silliest thing. Why would I ever say something that mean to myself? I remember when I landed my first best, like, highest paid client, and I heard my negative Nelly say, you should not earn that much money. And I was like, I would never say that to anyone ever. Like, who would ever say that? But I would say that to myself. So I think from the ashes, how have you transformed into accepting something about yourself where you did not accept it before? And all of a sudden there was some peace and acceptance and surrender that you allowed to happen to you. And I want you to put that on your list.
I love it. And I want to give people a special challenge if you want. That if there's something that you feel like you haven't yet quite transformed, to do it now in this moment. Find it, like, imagine what that thing is, and then find the love. This is really fun. I'm kind of giving an extra pause for this one because I want people to really think about that. Is there something? I realized that I didn't think of a prompt that I was going to offer. And I just want to see in this moment if anything drops in. So I'm going to give myself a moment while you guys are finishing up. And I'm also going to take just a breath and see. if there's a prompt that I would like to offer, because the more the better.
I also just want to say, Sherry, that you kind of gave us this idea of creating a whole self-love journal by keeping these around. And so I put that in the chat, but you did that too. So you definitely gave us a lot.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Rachel, for saying that. Yes, yes, yes. A little commercial here. So you guys know I love to make love lists, and I do a lot with audio recordings, and I keep audio recordings of what I love about my son, my boyfriend, my mother, everybody. I have tons of them. And I have the one for myself. And for me, that's the way I sort of keep them. I keep them by voice. I love voice notes. So we can do this, we can do it. Like you're saying, I love that idea. It can be a journal. You could do it. Angie's an artist. She might want to like draw herself a drawing, or, like there's all sorts of creative ways to keep it going. Thank you, Rachel. And I did think of a prompt. Well, I didn't think of it. It just dropped in out of nowhere. But I think the prompt that is next is, if your best friend, your mother, your child, someone who loves you dearly, if I was asking them right now, what they love about you, what would that be? And you might have several for this. You might think like, oh, my mother would say, this, or my child would say this, or my best friend. But sometimes I think in order to see ourselves, we need to kind of come around the corner and look at ourselves from a different vantage point. And the people that love us are great resources for us to love ourselves. And I don't know about you guys. I mean, it'd be interesting to hear from other people that are here. But like, I keep a box full of letters I've received, or notes, or, when people have reached out to tell me something that they love. Because, it's so easy. I heard Rick Hansen, who's the author of Buddha's Brain, talks about that our minds are like Teflon for the good stuff and like Velcro for the bad. And I know he just talks about, though, like he's a scientist, right? He comes from the place. It's like, it just happens to be science that for whatever reason, that seems to be how we're wired. And certainly my experience. So everything we can do to, I call it anchoring in those good things. So for me, I just look at all those notes, and it's like, it never gets old, right? So I'm curious, do any of you, as people are still thinking of things that other people in their lives love about them, does anybody else have any little tools or tricks like that to remind yourself of self-love and why you're loved and why you're lovable?
Sherry, that's just what I put in the chat. I just said I love, one of the things I have my clients do lists like this often, what's an I rock list, or like I'm proud of myself for list, or an I love about myself list. And I always tell them, like, tuck it away. And on those days when it just feels like kind of shitty, grab that little list and remind yourself, like, come back to it, keep it going, like add to it whenever you can, and reference it, pull it out on the days when you're like, I can't think of a single thing that has gone right and it just feels gross, or you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Just grab your list, and right there in your own writing, or your own voice in your case, is everything that you think is awesome about yourself.
Laura, that is so great. That is so great. And it made me remember too, sometimes I mail them to myself and then I forget.
That's so cute.
Because
I'm probably gonna steal it.
Because I usually mail it and then I forget that I did it. And when it comes, it's like, oh, look, that's kind of fun to do.
Nice.
Patty, I see you.
Yeah. This started a long time. It was in one of those moments of grief and sadness. And I just remember saying to a dear friend, I just looked at her, very pitiful. And she reminds me this often. And I said, can you count my blessings? Because I really can't right now. And it was like, she was like, sure. And she like just rattled them off. And I was like, damn, I'm good then. So it was just like that reach out to say, can you count my blessings? Because I can't see them. They're like nowhere in my purview.
Yes.
And people you trust and people who are safe will be like, yeah, let me get on that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've seen people post on Facebook, and I always think it's great. You know, I've seen people post like, "I'm having a really hard time. Do you love something about me?" You know,
Oh, really? That's cool. I haven't
it's
seen that.
brave. It's really brave. I don't know if I'd be that courageous, but yeah, you know, but we could do the same thing by email. Just I mean, again, it goes back to that vulnerability, but being able to say, I just can't see it right now, and goodness, who doesn't want to say, like, if someone reached out to me, I'd be so happy.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know? Yeah. Anybody else having anything that they want to say around that, like things to carry away, things that will help us remember?
Oh, go ahead, Kate.
Sorry, Rachel, real quick, to add on to Laura, you can also, like you do all the time, is record yourself. I have notes to self, and there's something really about hearing your voice back to you when you're in a powerful, positive place that is nice to rely upon when you can't count your blessings.
Great. Yeah. Rachel?
That's so true. I love the power of our voices. I was just going to say, before I get out of bed in the morning, I just make sure that I connect with myself and kind of say a little "I love you" and start to feel good for myself, so that I don't just kind of go on autopilot and respond to everyone else's needs, that I'm really present within myself and feeling good. And when I do that, it really, really impacts my day positively.
That is so great. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I
We're
didn't know
all
if
still
I was
here.
That just reminded me that before you get out of bed, and the opposite, that if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, who, you know, is neuroscientist and meditation guy, but one of the things he does say, if you're not programming yourself like Rachel is every morning to say something, he will say, don't believe the first 2 minutes of your own thoughts when you get up. Like that first 2 minutes, and it's telling you, I don't want to get up, it's cold, it's miserable, oh, I feel awful. Don't believe it. It's a lie. It's just a total lie. And we know that because when you get up and start moving around, that stuff kind of recedes.
You know, Patty, that's so great. My Zen teacher, Sherry Huber, says, you know, she says don't believe any of it anyway, but you know.
Yeah, well, I'm like, I'm all down with that. Yeah.
Don't even, like, you know, check in with yourself until you've had your cup of tea, which I think is a similar thing. I mean, I think it's, many of you know this, like, so for the longest time, it doesn't happen anymore, thank goodness, but I would wake up just in total depression every morning for a lot of my life. And I started making a recording that I could listen to when I first woke up that would say, hi, honey, I know you're waking up. I know you feel awful. I know you're depressed. I know it's dark. I know you feel like there's, you know, it would just like, she would like really relate to that person. And, you know, let me tell you, this is what you're going to do. Like, you know, and I would just give myself a poem or, you know, something to, so I really, I think that morning time it's a hard time for a lot of people. Yeah. How's everybody doing? Oh, Pat has her hand up. Hi, Pat.
Hi.
You're so great. You're so gracious to raise your hand.
Thank you. I just want to say this has been marvelous. I've been working on totally revamping my website on spirit, work, and money. And it's been really trying to not offer so much stuff. I'm a writer, and I want to give everybody all this information and inspiration. And at the beginning of this thing, it's like, what do you really love about yourself? And I go, you know, I love being a research junkie. I love sharing this stuff. I love encouraging people to say, here's some information, try it. And yeah, you're welcome to just go quickly and find a little tip, but you're also welcome to dive deeper. And somehow stop being embarrassed about that and trying to fit myself into a soundbite world.
Yes. Oh, that's perfect.
Go, girl.
Yeah.
And the thing I want to create on my computer monitor, where I usually have my words of the day, is like, what are you failing to celebrate about yourself right now? What are you failing to love about yourself? It's probably got a clue onto anything that's getting stuck. And I really want to try it out in those times when I've got a writing assignment, and I'm just struggling with it and working too hard to get it perfect. You know, I'm tired of trying to go for perfection. So thank you. This has all been marvelous.
Oh,
Sing it, sister.
Yeah. It's so wonderful, and I appreciate all that you've shared on the call. It's been really great to have your presence here. And yeah.
It's, you know, it's hard and it's joyous being John's caretaker and partner. I mean, we're not faced with immediate death, but you know, his body's been changing every day, and there are a lot of challenges from the treatment itself, and that's everyday stuff. And sometimes it's irritating, and sometimes he gets irritated with me, and we stop and we laugh and we love, and it always works. So Patty, I really, you know, want to hear more about what you do, and really grateful all of you are doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too, Pat, for what you're doing in the world. I love it. I love it. Yeah, so we have just a couple more minutes. Is there anything anybody else wanted to share before we close? I know Rachel had to hop off. She gave a little wave and a goodbye in the chat room.
She's like my hero for being able to multitask between talking and, oh my Lord, how does somebody do that?
That was actually another self-care moment for me, right? When I was like, I don't know how to do a video call, and there's the chat room and there's the raising of the hands, and I had in my mind that I had to do it all, you know, I don't know why, like to be perfect, I guess, right? To what Pat was saying. And then, you know, it just dropped, like, no, you know, it was like one of those, like, what can I do to make this easier?
Yeah. Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. I'm glad you're here. So I thank you guys so much. I mean, you were all like so willing to show up and to really show up, you know, and I think that's the thing. I really felt everybody's presence and your honesty and vulnerability and sharing so much. And I know there were a lot of people, we had about 50 people who had signed up, and I know a lot of them, you know, people were emailing me today, is there going to be a replay? And so, you know, more people will benefit from this too. And I love that, you know, that it's like, as much as we can all kind of keep this conversation going, I think it really benefits everybody. Oh, there's Linda. Thank you, Linda. I'm sorry we didn't get to hear from you. That's so sweet. She's thanking everybody for Valentine's Day and bringing us together. So thank you. Tomorrow I will be sending out a list with all of your contact information to everybody so people can get in touch with each other. And yeah, cool. Thank you. Happy I Love You Day to all of you.
You too, Sherry. Thanks for this. Wonderful.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
It was super fun.
Oh.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.